Hello, we are Geeks Assembled. We are recording this on the weekend of the 75th anniversary of Victory in Europe, VE Day. We picked this movie just by chance. We didn't really plan it that we was going to be recording this the same weekend. We are discussing a movie from 1940 starring Charlie Chaplin, who he wrote it, he directed it, produced it, and even scored the music to it. We are talking The Great Dictator, a political satire of its day. It has been, Charlie Chaplin did state, when he was alive, if he had known the true extent of the atrocities in what was happening with the Jewish communities, he thought he would never have made this movie. But we was all in the dark. Nobody knew what was going on back then. It's classed as one of the greatest movies ever made. It's it's in the American Film Archive now. So we will be discussing The Great Dictator. So we'll go to Susan. Let's see what she has to say about The Great Dictator.
So, Charlie Chaplin was an amazing silent film guy. He owned silent films with his baggy pants comedy, with his lovable tramp. He was embraced completely wholeheartedly by the American public. He was from the UK, and he had a wicked sense of humor, and he liked to get in the middle of other men's relationships. He went out with the co-star in this. He went out with, and she was apparently connected to what was his name? Not Hearst. It was the other one. Anyway, it'll come to me in a little while. I was just talking about it a second ago. Anyway, really, really good movie. Dramatic and really sort of at the time it was absolutely dead on with what was going on. This maniacal dictator was tormenting the Jewish community and all of the brunettes in the world. And so all y'all would have been tormented, you brunettes. But yeah, it's not, it isn't really funny. In that it is funny, but it isn't. It's like one of those really uncomfortable, wicked sense of humor things. And this was I think it was his first or second talkie, and it was his first talkie anyway. He really utilizes his, he starts off quiet, and then slowly but surely he builds a voice for himself, so that if he would have continued as a talkie actor, he would have, and producer and director and writer, he would have actually, paved his own trail into the modern age, really, as long as he lived. His speech, well, I'll get to that. It starred Charlie Chaplin, Jack Oakey, Reginald Gardner, and Henry Daniel, and let's see, some of the other people, Grace Hale, and Paulette Goddard. Paulette Goddard was a starlet, and this was one of her first movies. And Let's see. Anybody else that anybody would know? Um, well, yeah, there's lots of them. George Lynn. Um, yeah, there are lots of actors. It's a cast of greats anyway. Um, and he did a lot of physical humor, but it was more he was actually pushing the envelope and trying for intellectual humor in this. It was it was quite a rich tapestry. Anyway, um, that's all of my opening thoughts. Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, I'll just fill in a bit more here. It was his first talkie. 1940, it was his first talkie movie. He held off and held off. He didn't want to do any of the talkies. The talking pictures started in the early 30s or just in the late 20s. He held off, and he chose this one to be his first one. And I bet you the audience was quite surprised to learn out that he was English, because silent movies back then, and he was one of the biggest actors in America. He was English. Yeah, and that Paulette Goddard, he was married to her when he recorded this movie. She was his third wife, I think. Third wife. I think there was another wife after her. He got about a bit. And also, yeah, he had that much pull and power in Hollywood. Him and a few more actors created the film company United Artists. So that's how powerful Chaplin was. So we'll go to Jake now, because I think this will be the first time he's seen this. It's mostly not what sort of thing a man of his age would sit down and watch, but
right. I'll be dead honest. This sort of film is not my cup of tea, but at the same time, I'm mature enough to appreciate its historical value and what it means to the world. I mean, Chaplin's first talking film, the historical importance of this film that shows how ignorant the world was to what was actually going on with the Jewish community. So yeah, I understand that Chaplin was a bit regretful about it afterwards because he didn't know, and I think that's what makes this film so important, because it's got good historical value and it takes the mick out of something. What Chaplin wanted to do, this is what I got from this film, is he was trying to cheer people up when the world needed it most, and I think for the time back then it really worked. But there's the humour in all this. It didn't really work for me. I'm not saying it's a bad film. This wasn't for me, but I'm not going to slag it off too much because it is historically important to what actually went on in the world.
And I've remembered who Paulette Goddard was connected to. It was Eddie Cantor.
Oh yeah,
the producer.
Cool. Susan knows all. We bow down. All right, we'll go over to. I don't know what Ethan was doing there. He just looked like a little weasel then. But Ethan, over to you.
Yeah, as you said, this was Charlie Chaplin's first talking film, and it must have shocked a lot of people. Well, he's not American; he's English. But he basically, and I remember I've seen this, I think, about 2, maybe 3 times, and every time I've watched it, I've always liked it. But this time round, I loved it. I'm a sucker for these kind of films, black and white films and satire and comedy. And I love Charlie Chaplin's old silent movie stuff, like Buster Keaton and all that, and all the comedians back then, like the Marx Brothers and all that. But yeah, this one was a very different one, and it was sadly it was during a time where his popularity was fading, and he was getting quite controversial and stuff. But he was a genius coming up with this film. It was a really clever film. And it is old school comedy, because that opening, I was howling when he's trying to control that cannon and he's flying all over the place. So it's got the trademark comedy where all the bomb going down the pants, and very deadpan. And he basically is playing, even though he's playing a Jewish barber, he's basically the tramp. He's still the character of the tramp. So it's sort of like the big movie of the tramp. But and it's a very powerful film. It's a very well done satire comedy film. But there is a lot of drama and emotional parts to it. And all the actors like us, Pauline Goddard, she was brilliant in this, like the classic tough woman, you know, doesn't hold back. And Chaplin himself as the Jewish barber, who was just kind, quiet, really good-hearted, gentle guy who, you know, got scared of a lot of things. And he plays a brilliant dictator who's just a maniacal lunatic. And every time he came on, he was so funny, just so over the top, and it just made fun of Hitler at that time. But it was just so funny how exaggerated he was. And even the way when he doesn't speak German, it's actually gibberish, but sounds like German, which is something like Chico Marx, the Italian one, where you think he's speaking Italian, but he's just making it up on the spot, gibberish, but he sounds down like, so the German, like, he just makes it up. And I thought that was very clever. It does have very clever, funny humor and stuff. And again, that the ending, which I'll get to later on with favorite moments, but that ending just still brought tears to my eyes. It's so funny. It does have so many sad moments, quite emotional moments actually, but yeah, it is a very important film and a very well done one. And even Chaplin was scared at the time because he thought it's not going to go down well with wartime people to see a movie about a dictator, but it worked. You know, he made money off of it. It was like his most financially successful film, wasn't it? Yeah.
You hit a great point there. Like the wartime hadn't happened for the U.S. though until 1941. So this was released, and it had a whole year to gain traction before anyone.
But he did a good job. You know, the fact he wrote this, directed this, acted in it. You know, well done to him, especially that speech at the end. You know, bloody genius. It really was, in many ways, ahead of its time. That speech. And I said earlier, it's so relevant today. It's relevant for any day, really. It's just so clever. But yeah, I loved it. I had a real good time watching this film and a good laugh as well, because it does have so many moments, which I'll get to.
Thanks, Ethan. Right, to me, yeah. When I said we'll do this one, I totally forgot how long this was. It was just over 2 hours long, and that is quite surprising for a movie from back then. You know, 1940. Movies were never that long back then. You know what I mean? But sitting down and watching it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And a certain person back in the 1940s may have enjoyed it because apparently Mr. Hitler had 2 viewings of it. He watched it twice in the privacy of his own bunker or wherever he watched it. But we don't know what he thought of the movie. But we do know that the movie was banned in Germany up till about 1958, I think, 53, 58, something like that, due to what was going on in the war and all like that. But yeah, because it says in Chaplin's biography, or whatever, that he knew that Hitler had watched it twice. So he sat down and watched Charlie Chaplin taking the urine out of him. Yeah, I agree. It's. I mean, I'm not a politically minded person, but this, when it's done satire, it works. Chaplin is on top form. He really is. And you can, I mean, when I was watching it, I felt like I was watching a silent movie anyway. All the slapstick he was doing, that's what he's well known for. You know the paintbrush. You know the paintbrush with the set German soldiers, and as you say, with the guns. And he was sort of playing a sort of a variation of the Tramp. Yeah, he was. Of course, he was. Because that was Chaplin. That was his alter ego. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and it had a message. a very strong message, this. And I would recommend any people who haven't seen it, the younger generation like Jake and stuff like that, sit down, just take a couple of hours out your time, sit down and watch it, because it has got a very powerful message, and it works for me personally. So let's go to favourite moments, things what you weren't too keen on. We'll go back that way again. So it's Ethan.
Yeah. Actually, a little fun fact is there was a biography in the autobiography of Charlie Chaplin, which was written by his son. He actually wrote that Chaplin was quite scared of Hitler because there was some strange connection that they were born 4 days apart or something. And because he plays this certain character, he made a joke saying, one's a madman, one's a comic. It's scary how maybe something could have happened and flipped the switch. You know, it was something like that along those lines.
Well, talking of Chaplin being born, I don't know how true this is, but he is registered to have been born in London.
Mm-hmm.
But his parents were like a part of a travelling circus, if I remember rightly.
Mm-hmm.
And I read somewhere that he was born in Hull, but registered in London. But I don't know how true that is.
Oh, very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Me and a certain actor who's no longer with us, Anthony Henley.
Hull tries to adopt culture anywhere they can.
Yeah, me and the late great Anthony Henley used to have conversations about Chaplin because he loved Chaplin. And that he always used to come up with a discussion, and he always used to say to me, "Show me the proof. Show me the proof." Get. But yeah,
brilliant.
But back to you anyway. I just thought I'd get in there.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Yeah, I like the whole opening sequence where it introduces the Jewish barber, but at the time he was a soldier. And like I said, the whole bit with the grenade or the cannon hand fits, or like the bullet just go. And it chases him. It's classic old school cartoon humor. And I loved how he meets his friend, the one he saves, and they're in the plane, they're upside down. And I loved the way they're talking. They're so dead serious with the stuff going on with the watch and the flying, and deadpan delivery perfect where he's hanging like that. We're upside down, I know. Give me the stick. Not possible. And then they crash. All the bits with the dictator I thought were hilarious because he was just so over the top bonkers, and he was unpredictable. I forgot some of this, and you don't know what he's going to do. And it was so funny how he just rips the Mickey out of him. It's brilliant. From like the bit when he's in the palace, and it's like a full day of his life at top speed, isn't it? So he's like playing the piano super fast, next room, painting, done. He's about to have sex with this woman. Hello. He's moving at super speed. So he's like, and then like the bit with the inventors and the scientists trying to test stuff out. Oh, bulletproof. Try it. Rubbish. Or the guy that's like, a parachute. Heil Henkel. Was it Henkel? Henkel? Yeah. Heil Henkel. Why do you do this? The guy dies. And even like there's a bit which I nearly spat my drink out because I didn't expect this. Is when I think it's his advisor or something saying, "You could be the dictator of the world, the emperor of the world, all the blondes." But he's saying all this stuff, but he's more interested in the blondes, like, "Oh, those beautiful blondes," and he gets all mushy and like, "Oh." And then he just gets all flirty or something like, "Oh, you're scaring myself." Skips to the curtain and goes. I nearly spat my drink out of that because I didn't expect that. I was like, just how he goes up and he's grinning like. And even like the Italian dictator, I thought that was funny how he's just this Italian dictator's whacking him and stuff like that. Or the train bit, the train that doesn't stop. Trying to think. Again, I liked when the barber is up against the stormtroopers as they're called, not Star Wars stormtroopers, Nazi stormtrooper. But and he has the white paint and stuff, and he's doing his classic routine of like being comical. I actually quite liked one little emotional scene is the bit on the roof with Paul and Goddard and Chaplin on the roof, and the barbershop explodes. I actually really like that bit. That's quite an emotional bit, and the bit afterwards when it's nighttime. And yeah, of course, the big speech at the end. I mean, that's just perfect. And it's a brilliant build-up to it, isn't it? You know, like they escape, they do the switcheroo act. What are you doing? What am I doing? You're going to invade this place. Oh! And it's just that build-up, the fear in him. You know, you really feel for him because you're like, what's going to happen? But he does such a good job at that end. And all that ending bit, the speech and to Hannah at the end was brilliant. Yeah, and I just cried. I still cry at that scene. That just brings tears to my eyes, that ending. It's brilliant. So perfectly, just genius writing. Genius writing. So, yeah, over to you guys. Those are pretty much my favourite moments.
Right, we'll go to, so it was Jake next. Go to Jake.
The trouble with me is I've never really liked slapstick comedy. I'm more dark, dry, gritty humour. But there is some bits that I did enjoy. I like the plane bit. I thought it was silly. I thought it was quite funny when he's drinking the water. He's going to try and get it. I like the bit where I can't say Hitler because he's not Hitler. The dictator is playing with the big blown up weld and he's dancing around with it. He uses his bum to push it. I thought it was good. I found it quite a beautiful scene actually. In a weird twisted way, it was quite magical how this man dressed as Hitler is like playing with the weld. Because that's what he actually did in real life. And as everyone was saying, the ending is so powerful. Because I wasn't really paying attention watching it. I was watching something else at the same time. But as soon as that bit happened, that other thing was paused and I was drawn into it. Wow. How it could go from 0 to 100 that quick. Because that was Chaplin. He was talking to the audience about everything. I just thought it was good. But I won't necessarily watch it again. Because, as I said, it wasn't really my thing, but I appreciate its historical value enough to... I think people who like history and this sort of era should watch it.
At least you've sat down and give it a go. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. Susan.
All right. So you guys have really covered a lot of it. The parts that remain are the Italian guys was actually making fun of both Mussolini and Napoleon. His name was Napoleone, and that's like totally like Napoleon. Anyway, so I mean, like they were really like he was really thumbing his nose at pretty much every world leader since, you know, the 1700s. Any dictator anyway. There were bits of the Kaiser in that, and there were bits of the Habsburgs, and anyway, Schultz was great. Schultz was you know, he was the proper like hero of the story. You know, he was incapacitated for a lot of it, and he lived to fight another day. And so that was pretty brilliant. And then there was the stormtroopers getting hit on the head with a frying pan. I love that bit. And the ghetto bits were near and dear to my heart. Yeah, and they were invading Austerlitz, which sounds like Osterich, which sounds like also Austria and Switzerland. Sverige. I mean, they were making that whole thing, connected, and that was fun. And so, I mean, the names were in the thing. The names were revelatory. Like Herring was, you thought that he was going to arrest the barber, and he didn't, and it was a red herring. And the name of the country wasn't Germany, it was Tomania, which is like tomato, and then they were stealing the tomatoes later. I mean, there was a lot to do with the names of things. The bacteria, they just discovered, well, they were getting pretty familiar with bacteria in the scientific world. And so they named another nation the Bacterian Ambassador. And then it was sort of a slap, but he named the other Jewish couple, the old Jewish couple, the Jackals. And yeah, so those are my favorite points and things that I wanted to bring out about it. Yeah, fun movie.
Cool. Right, what I'm going to do, we've got it here, is the speech. I'm going to read it out. So here goes. I'm not doing a Chaplin impersonation. I'm just going to read it. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. And this world has room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives us abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators will die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. As so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, or regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to those unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, Don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke, it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man, nor a group of men, but in all men. In you, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life wonderful adventure. Then, in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight. Sorry, I'm losing it here. Let us fight. I'm filling up. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and an old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill the promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. That is one of the best speeches ever written. And that was from the pen of Charlie Chaplin.
And that's why he waited till the end to speak.
Yeah. That, I mean, to me, it is a brilliant movie, but that ending scene where he stood down that podium doing that speech, and then, as I say, it doesn't finish on him. It finishes on I forgot the character's name now. Paula. Paula. It finishes on her looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
You know, looking to the future, and that's where the film ends. That is so poignant.
That's the bit that made me cry when he's like calling out to her. It's brilliant.
That speech and the way the film ended is just pure brilliance. You've all done all the comedy bits, you've all done that, so I won't go through everything like that, but I thought I'd have to get the speech in here somehow. I mean, it is a long speech, but it's a damn good speech.
Yeah.
So, anything else? Anybody else to say about The Great Dictator? No?
No. Pretty much it.
We will go to the last scores then. Final saying score. Seeing as you're a mate, Susan, over to you.
Oh, thought you were going to go to Ethan. Yeah, all right. This is fine. Enjoyed it. Saw it in film school. Saw it again probably in 2000 or something like that. And you know, it's a great movie. It's beautifully shot. It's got amazing special effects. It's truly funny and, you know, worrying at the same time, and it demands a super high score. I would say I'll give it 10. What would I give it? 10 twirly bombs out of 10.
Right. Thanks, Susan. Ethan.
Yeah, it deserves it, really. It's a 10 out of 10 from me. Simple as the whole film deserves it, a 10 out of 10. And that, like you said, that's just that speech at the end is just absolute perfection.
Brilliant. Thanks. And we'll go to Jake.
Not really my humour, but I appreciate the historical factor and its importance. So I'm going to give it a 7.
It's a good score. Seeing as it's your first time seeing this, and we have to get this sort of generation involved with what happened in the past. We have to, and we've got to keep the past alive. Me, it's a damn good movie. It's funny where it wants to be funny. It's serious where it wants to be serious, and it has got a message to it. Just say with the speech and stuff like that. So I'm giving it 10 goose steps out of 10. So you guys, Ethan, Jake, Susan, thanks for joining me talking about The Great Dictator and Charlie Chaplin. You guys out there, let us know what you thought of this movie. Let us know what you think of our casts, please. We're thick-skinned. Leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up. We're on Facebook, Twitter. We're on, what's the other one? YouTube. So if you want to subscribe or you want to join, leave us a message. On YouTube, subscribe. Ding the bell. You'll get notified. Well, there he is. Oh, come on, Jake. Come on. Ring your little dinger. Oh, we can't even hear it. It's that small. Ah, dear. Oh. Yeah, and if you want to join us, leave a message. Say we're on Facebook, or we'll try and get you involved. So until next time, be safe in these times of troubles we're in, and we will see you next time. All well, and hopefully, we'll keep this going, and as long as we can keep this group going. Positivity all the way. Thanks for watching, guys.